oh, I do the double. Good morning, you guys. It's a lovely rainy morning here in Los Angeles. We're here for a live. I am going to go find Angie. Let's see. I did this before. I'm sure I can do it again. So I do the double person. Go live with Angie. Send request. Good morning or good afternoon in the East. There's Angie. Good morning, Angie.
We did it again. Good morning.
I like making a habit of this once a month.
Yeah.
Next month might be a little bit challenging because I start back on Valerie's home cooking shooting, but maybe we can do it on a Wednesday or a Saturday, or I mean, you can still keep your Fridays because I don't want anybody to miss those, but maybe we can do an extra thing on Saturday or something, because I know I look forward to seeing you at least once a month.
Yeah, it's a good habit to get into, and we'll figure it out. You know what? We'll just go with the flow of. I'm so glad you're back to your cooking show, and I'm sure that makes you happy too to have that sense of purpose back in your life where you're doing something that you love.
Yeah, it's been almost a year. I'm sure everybody wants to get back to work. I mean, if we all wear our masks, and hopefully I'll get in line soon to get the shot. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll all be taken care of, and we can all get back to life semi-normal anyway. And even as normal as we want life to be, sometimes this doesn't let us be normal. And I think that's what we're here for, to tidy our minds. I know I could definitely use a big dose of a tidy mind today.
Yeah, we all can. We can all learn to take better care of our minds so that we're feeling better more of the time, which is what it's all about. So
yeah. And we have control over that, which for a long time I didn't realize that I had control over how I choose to feel. I mean, I've always said, you know, when faced with a choice, choose happy, but sometimes happy is really, really challenging to choose, especially now. But yeah, we really do have a choice on how we do this, on how we choose to go through our lives, and no matter what the challenges are.
Yeah, it takes some awareness, but yes, once we can develop that awareness, we can start to choose more. There are other factors, there are other things that influence our thoughts, but on the majority, we do get, if we can get that awareness, we can step back and say, all right, let's choose better thoughts to feed this little part of us that I call the inner child. So yeah.
Oh, that poor inner child that doesn't get a lot of attention. We're always telling it to shut up and stop talking back. But yeah, we need to let the inner child talk a little bit. Yeah. So I'm going to let you take over, and I'm just going to listen. And if any questions come up, I'll let you know. And as I watch everybody join us, and as we go through this, welcome everybody. We're going to tidy our minds.
Welcome. Yes, and today is all about grief. And if you've been joining me, we have Lunchtime Live every Friday. And once a month, we're going to come to Valerie's house and have Lunchtime Live. So thank you for joining us here. And yes, it is about grief. And I wanted to start by talking about the 5 stages of grief. And I also want to just set this up to let you know, like what me and Valerie are discussing here, we're kind of like in the self-help category, okay? If you need professional help, if you need, like you're having severe depression that you cannot get out of, you need to go talk to your therapist, you need to go talk to your doctor, please do that. We're here just to offer you our stories. We're here to offer you our experience of what we've seen, what I've seen through coaching clients with their mind. So take it and use it as you can. And if you're needing, you know, more professional help, please do seek that help out. There is help out there available for you, so please go get that. Okay, let's get into grief. And I'm going to talk about, just briefly, about the 5 stages of grief. I have 3 teaching videos that you can go to angie.johnsey, that's where my Instagram is, and I have in Instagram TV, I have all my teaching videos. I do teaching videos before our Friday lunchtime lives. So I prepare you, and I do these little doodle, like on a whiteboard thingy. Yeah, it's crazy, but you can watch it.
It's helpful. It's helpful for us to visualize. We're able to visualize it and need it. Yeah.
Exactly. Some people are very visual learners, so instead of listening to me talk about it, if they can actually see it in front of them, they can let that sink in a little bit and they can apply it, which is what this is all about. This isn't just information for the sake of information. This is information that you can take and actually apply to your daily life to make it better.
And if
So
I may be so bold, sometimes it's great to have notes. So,
take notes.
and make notes. And can I just add to that,
Yeah.
to the stages of grief? Because I was talking about this with my therapist the other day, and which I'm glad you brought that up, because therapy is really good. I will continue to see Angie, and I'll continue to see my therapist, because I think it's really helpful, even just to let off steam and, not, kind of like bear down your friends with it sometimes. I mean, yeah, my girlfriends are great for listening, but sometimes it's good to go to somebody professional who, like you and a therapist, who are professional listeners and helpers. But David Kessler said there is another stage of grief that I thought was really interesting, and that's making meaning of your loss, which made me, it kind of brought it around full circle for me, but I'll let you keep talking, and I don't want to interrupt too much.
No, I want you to please interject like this. I want this to be a conversation. But it's an absolutely wonderful point you make about being able to express it. A lot of people who are going through grief feel guilty to keep telling their story, to keep talking about their loss, to keep talking about their pain to their family and friends. They feel like they're being a burden. But it's so healthy to have an outlet where you can just feel safe and not feel guilty to say, I miss my mom, or I miss my dad, and this is what we used to do, and this is what happened when he died, and this is how I felt, and now I'm feeling this, and now I feel like I did a post the other day, and you can look through my post on Instagram. It was about grief, and I had the most comments I've ever had on a post ever. And the reason why is because people needed a safe place to tell their grief story.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me realize, like, we don't allow that. Like, we don't allow that.
Buck up and you'll be fine and get over it.
Or
And
just
you know
stop
what?
being
I don't want to get over it right now. Yeah.
No, this is it's a beautiful unfolding, and I'll get into that, but it's like people need to be able to talk about it in a safe way. And I think there should be a wall somewhere. Like, I think there should be somewhere on the Insta web or whatever, like maybe we should make one, like a wall where you can come and you can post your story without feeling guilty, without feeling like you're burdening anybody. You can say how you're feeling that day, so that, like, you've got an outlet for that. And to know that there are people coming behind you and they're reading those and they're feeling that with you and they're sharing that pain and they're sharing.
And they don't feel alone. We
And
don't
they
feel
don't
alone
feel
when we share our grief.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can isolate yourself in that grief, especially, right after someone passes. And grief is not just about loss. Like, if someone has died, you can grieve lots and lots of things. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The loss of a job, the loss of a marriage, the loss of a pet, the loss of an idea, a dream that you had. You can grieve so many different things. But, what was my point? I was going to tell you something. It was something about, I don't know. I'll come back to it. I totally lost it.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll come back to it. But grief is more than just losing somebody that you love. Grief can be any kind of loss that you have in your life. And don't minimize it, because if it's touching you and if it's hurting you, don't minimize it. That means that you're feeling such grief that it's good for you to go through it and talk about it and cry and get to the other side. No matter how somebody else tries to minimize it for you, it's real to you, and you're allowed to feel it. So let yourself feel it.
Yes, very good point. Give yourself that permission. So let's go into the 5 stages, and maybe what I was going to say will come back. Who knows? Might not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got denial, and I had the privilege of hearing the doctor speak that came up with these 5 stages, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, if I can say her name right.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was in nursing school years and years and years ago, and she was, we went to this lecture at Stanford University here in Birmingham, and she was speaking, and she talked about the 5 stages. So I always think that's just such an honor that I was able to be there for that.
Mm-hmm.
Denial is stage number 1, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And I just want to touch on each one, and you can stop me anywhere along the way, Valerie, if you've got something to say. But denial, I think we kind of all know, is kind of that initial shock of whether you've lost someone or something or some idea or whatever of
this can't be happening. This isn't happening.
This isn't real. Like, this doesn't even feel real. I don't even, and it's because your mind, and I call this like some kind of little gift for heaven, because your mind kind of gets numb in a way to help you be able to carry out what you, especially with a death, to be able to carry out what you need to carry out right after this has happened. And a lot of people standing back who are not close to the loss, who may have came to the services or the funeral or whatever, and they see this person who they're expecting to be in this devastated state just carrying on like they're just doing what they need to do, and they're like, what's wrong? You know, what's wrong with them? Well, they're still in that gift from
Shock
heaven.
and denial.
They're still in that numb, their mind, it's too much. Their mind can't even possibly start to even make sense or embrace it, or they're nowhere in the grief yet. Like they're standing there in the shock phase of what has happened. Okay?
And everyone deals with it differently, for sure.
Everybody. And these stages I'm about to talk about, you can jump around from them. Like usually
they're not necessarily in order, I was told, which was that was helpful too. It's like, wait a minute, I'm
not doing
at
it right.
acceptance, but I don't, and then I'm going back to anger and bargaining, and so you can go back and forth.
Absolutely. And you can even get to acceptance, and still your mind can kind of take you back into some of that bargaining and depression again. Like, so
and acceptance doesn't mean that you're okay with it. Acceptance just means, it happened. It's just accepting the fact that it happened. It doesn't mean that you're okay with whatever happened. Because I think when we think of different things, losing a child, like I don't think you ever accept that loss. I don't know. My mother lost a baby while she was pregnant with me, my older brother. Don't know that she ever accepted it, but she had to at a certain point to raise me and to raise her other children. So you accept it, but you never move on. I think there's a misnomer, something about acceptance, that accepting it doesn't mean you're okay with it.
Right. You're carrying that, and it still hurts. Like there's still that ache there, or there's still that remembrance, or there's still that pain that is going with you. So yes, that's a very good point about acceptance. So there is no right or wrong. And so if you're in the middle of grief, don't think, I'm not processing this right. I'm not doing this right. It's what's right for you. Okay. It's what's right for you in that moment, in the situations that are happening around you. Like, it's what's right for you right now. So denial. Okay. We pretty much got that. Anger. So I've seen some people start out here. Like they're fighting from the moment they found out it has happened, and they're blaming, and again, please take this into what you're grieving right now. If you've not lost anyone, but you're grieving the loss of a marriage, please apply what I'm saying. I'm probably going to use the example of death, but apply it to you. Okay. So the anger, they just want to fight it. Like they want to use their resistance and their force, and their mind is trying to attack anything and everything and it's just to have some form of control over this pain, to feel like I have some form of control. And to me, I think grief is such a spiritual process, and it's one that your spirit is going through, and then your mind gets involved and tries to go through it too.
Take control of it.
And it's not a mental thing. It's kind of beyond your mind. And grief can teach us, I like to think of it like, especially if someone has died, that person who has gone on before you is kind of like taking you by the hand and saying, come on, I'm about to teach you something. Like, I'm agreeing with your soul that I'm going to be one of your greatest spiritual teachers right now. And I'm going to take you by the hand, and we're going to go through a very painful but life-changing experience, that you can get some beautiful awarenesses about life through the death, that you can realize that there really is no separation. Now that's deeper spiritual truths, but if you can get your mind quiet and calm during the process of grief and allow your spirit to do the grieving, your spirit to lead you through the grief, there's a lot of beauty and a lot of understanding and a lot of awareness that can come to you that will then enrich your life. Just want to throw that out there.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. It's hard to remember when you're in the depths of the pain of it.
Absolutely.
But there's something about pain and grief that does, unfortunately, make you grow as a human being. It's challenging and it's difficult, and there's so many colors to it and so many opinions. But to just, like you said, let your mind quiet and experience the entire volume of it, and let your soul and your spirit experience it too. It's so challenging. I've had unfortunately too much death in the last few years for me to find an appreciation for it. But there is something to be learned from all of this, for sure.
I think our minds will never appreciate it. Our minds prefer comfort. Our minds prefer easy. Our minds prefer all these things. But our spirit also knows that we need pain. We need the other side of the coin for all of the deep learnings that we're here to experience. Our mind's like, no, let's just don't do it. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Let's forget this.
Right. I mean, it sounds so trite and so, but we do need the dark to see the bright light, to see how light it can be. Without the dark, we would never see the light. It's just there, and you become numb to it. So the darkness makes us appreciate the light more.
Yeah. What did Dolly Parton say? So what was the song?
Everything she says is brilliant. I love Dolly Parton.
Something about you can't have the rainbow without the rain, or
something like that. Yeah.
Hey, if somebody here knows, tell us, because we can't remember what it was.
Write it in. I'm reading as we go by.
It was good stuff, Dolly. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's. I remember when after my dad passed, and that mind just doesn't want it to. It's just like, let's just don't do this. Let's don't do this. And right after he passed, I remember sitting, and I know how illogical it sounds, but I was crying, and I said, "Just come back."
Yeah.
Just come back. Like, just come back. I was very serious. My mind was very serious. Let's just don't do this. We'll just forget this whole thing. We'll forget this happened. Okay. Just come back and we'll just go back to how it was. My mind was not, and that was kind of starting to go down into the bargaining. It's like, well, let's just make a deal here. Like, let's do something else, because I don't really want to go through
I don't want to do this. Yeah.
Our mind will always resist it. Our mind will never want to go through it, which is why I'm introducing kind of this idea of this is something your spirit leads you through. And the more you allow your spirit to lead you through, the kind of easier. I'm not saying the process is going to be easy. It's going to always be difficult and challenging for your mind, but the more beauty you get out of it, and the more connection, because if you can see it as, like you and Eddie, like he agreed, like he's doing this with you, you're two souls. He has said, we're going to do this together. You're not doing this alone. I don't think you ever do grief alone. I think that person that you're grieving, their soul on some level is doing it with you and helping you transition through it, and helping you come to your new normal, as my wise mother says. She said, I had to just find a new normal. Yeah. That was her. They were married over 50 years.
And you may never like this new normal, but that's what it is. And finding a way to survive in the new normal, which many people are doing. This whole year has been, unfortunately, about death and grieving and losing and loss. And too many people have lost too many things between, the worst, which is losing a loved one. So many jobs have been lost. So many careers have been lost. It's shattering what's gone on. And I think talking about grief is the appropriate thing to do. We're all going through some form of it.
Yeah, grief, it like moves you through change. Like it's not a change we want. It's an
Mm-hmm.
unwanted change. But grief is kind of like the vehicle that we get in. It's like, I don't want to go through this change. I really don't. But if we can get our minds on, if we can get our minds in the right place, it won't be
We're
such
going to have to go through the grief anyway.
right.
So let's get our minds in the right place and try to do it in a way that will help us more and help the people around us that we love that are still here, that are all grieving too. So we have to grieve anyway because it sucks and we have to go through it. They're not here. So how do we do it in the best way to heal our own souls, our own spirits?
Yeah. And I like to say, and this all goes to your spiritual belief, and I'm not here to tell anybody what to believe, but for me, I always say they're not here physically, and I don't have a physical relationship with them, but my relationship did not end, and my relationship with them will never end. I still have a relationship with them. It just looks different than it used to.
Yeah, I just can't text them anymore.
I can't text them. I can't pick it. It's not as easy as picking up the phone. I got to get in touch with my spirit, which is another thing it teaches us. I got to get in touch with that place that I can connect with them and get my mind out of the way so I can feel them. So I can feel when they're near. So I can feel what they would have said to something I just said, so that I can still feel that love. And please keep sharing your love. Don't say this is the end. I can never share love with them. I can never share a conversation with them. Talk to them. Love them. Share love with them. Close your eyes. Use your imagination. Have a moment with them. See them in your mind. Give them that hug. It doesn't have to. I think one of the lessons is life is not just all physical world. Like you've got a bunch of other stuff out here besides just your physical being. And if you can get out of that and kind of calm your mind down a little bit, you can explore a relationship with them that's like
you might not have been able to explore
when
they were here, because there were so. That's the thing about grief, is it's actually a bit of a blessing, because, and I'll just take my relationship with Ed for the last 40 years. It was a messy relationship. We had some very difficult, very challenging times, but we had some beautiful times too. And the lovely thing about grief and the gift that it gives you is that it's so much easier to remember the beautiful moments than the challenging and the difficult moments that you have with that person. So those are beautiful things to hold on to, and to remember the best of whoever you're grieving. And I could only hope that when I'm gone, my son will remember the best of me and not the worst of me. So I think that's something to hold on to, is that the best of you gets remembered.
Yeah, I think that's another gift of heaven there, that it does turn, it's like our mind and all of our stories about how horrible they are and what they did to us. And it just, when they're
Doesn't
losing
mean as
their
much
physical
anymore.
body, it doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
What if we could live life like, what if we could do that now before they're gone?
Yes.
And say,
yes,
it
that's
doesn't
key.
matter.
What if we
I
just
love you anyway?
Just love. I mean, it's so easy to forgive someone that you love. I mean, because you love them. And so, of course, you want to forgive them. I mean, it's easy when we think of our children. I mean, Wolfie can do no wrong in my eyes. I don't care what anybody says. He's my son, and I love him unconditionally. What if we tried or did our best to do that with everyone? It's challenging, but if we try, or I try is such a horrible word. It's more like do our best to see the best in others, to see their best intentions. I mean, there are some people out there that are just plain evil. I got it. I mean, I do. I understand that. But that you don't have to have them in your life. Or you try to see the best in them and see them, and we'll come back to the inner child, see them as a child. And that child never meant to hurt anyone, but that child was hurt. So that child lashes out. So I think the more we learn how to, and I think it starts with ourselves, learning how to forgive ourselves and be kinder to ourselves so that we can be kinder to others. I try to treat people the way I treat my son, but it's hard. It's challenging,
It
you
is.
know?
There's something real special that happens to us as mothers or parents, that when
Hmm.
we see our children, we're kind of like rose-colored glasses. We kind of
For sure.
blind that out. But it's a great point about, like, what if if that person that you're holding that grudge against, or that little petty thing that you just can't forgive, what if they're gone tomorrow? Like, if you can, how does that change your behavior towards them? How does that change your capacity to love them? How does that change how you interact with them? How does that change your behavior all around regarding them? Think about it. Like, you're gonna say, oh my God, that didn't even matter, and I'm sorry that I've been cold to you. I'm sorry that I've even been thinking the things that I've been thinking. It just really changes. Grief teaches love,
Yeah, it does,
a
doesn't it?
deeper love. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So back to our stages. Okay. So we've gone through denial, we've gone through anger, now bargaining. And I think you can get stuck kind of, maybe not so much in denial, because after a while your mind kind of adjusts to the fact that, yes, this has happened. I don't like it, but this has happened. But then you can kind of, if you don't keep your mind in check, you can get stuck in this. You can get stuck in anger, you can get stuck in bargaining, you can get stuck in the depression, for sure. Okay. So I think those 3 stages there are really important to start to learn to care for your mind, so that you can make your transition through this change in your little grief boat as easy and less painful as possible. It's not going to feel good, it's not going to be comfortable, but a lot of change, a lot of great change really isn't. And a lot of great teachings come from suffering, like they really do. All right,
Yeah.
so
And that's something that I think is a really good thing to remember, that while you're suffering, remember that good can come from this, that you will learn a lot through your suffering. And um, it's a good way to kind of appreciate the negative, if you will, because I do try to look at everything as a lesson, some more challenging than others, but grief is a lesson for sure.
it's a soul development thing. Like,
Whew.
grief is all about soul development.
Well,
It's
then
not
my soul is developed and I'm done. I don't want to develop it
PhD in development.
anymore. I've had a rough 3 years, god dang it.
You working on your master's right now.
You're right.
Okay, so bargaining. So this is something I saw my mom kind of get stuck in, and that's the, well, what ifs, or I could have, or I should have, or maybe if I would have done this, or said this, or not have gone here, or not.
If only I had.
If only I had.
Mm-hmm.
That's that, and that your mind can really get stuck in that. And even though it makes no logical sense, there's something about your mind that says, if I replay this over and over and over, maybe it won't happen. It's happened, but your mind's just like, okay, well, and my mom did this with my dad. Well, maybe if I would have told the doctor this, or if we would have tried this, or and I tried for a very long time to help her make her peace with that, and for her mind to stop doing that. I think one thing that helped her was saying, and if she didn't have the same belief system, this probably wouldn't have worked. But I think life and death are scheduled. I think that the universe says, do whatever you want to in between all that. But when you come into the world and when you leave the world, it's kind of set, and then you just make the biggest mess you want to in between. But when you come in and when you leave, is up to something bigger and higher.
Yeah.
And so she kind of took that, and it kind of helped her to stop that bargaining of, well, I should have done something. I should have done something different. I should have said something.
It won't change anything. It won't. It won't change anything.
And logically, that, but your mind just keeps on and playing out scenarios. So that's bargaining. So you can really You can really get stuck in that. And then I think the longer you stay in bargaining, you can really produce a lot of guilt and shame for yourself. And with guilt and shame brings you down, you know, the more guilt and shame you produce, now you're going to go down into depression.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know people who really get deep stuck into that depression. And it's almost like you've come down to the bottom. Okay. You're at the bottom of the barrel and there's only one way up, and that's there's only one way out, and that's up, and that's
Right.
where acceptance would exist. So when you get deep down, no, if you're there in that, you just feel like you're in the lowest place possible, I want to give you some hope to know you're close. You're close to popping out the other side, and you just need to find something. And it really is a choice too. You're at a crossroads here. I can stay here. I can choose to stay here on the bottom, or I can pop myself on out to the other side by choosing that I'm going to live, and I'm going to bring, they don't have to stay here. You can bring part of them with you into this new life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think sometimes it's as little as just getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. It can be just as something as little and tiny as that. And that can move you, just moving yourself forward. And some days are so much more difficult than other days. But it really, any little step you take, pat yourself on the back for it. Because you're going through hell, and you're going to keep going because you can. You can keep going. Some days you may not want to. And if you can, stay in bed. But if you can't, if you got to get to work, or if you have children to feed, or if you have, you know, things that you must do, just, it's as little as getting out of bed and brushing your teeth. It has worked for me. It sounds simplistic, and it's still challenging, and it's still difficult. But it's just moving forward. Just getting inertia. Is it inertia?
That works.
Getting some motion, getting any kind of motion forward, as opposed to staying stuck. And it's just moving yourself.
Grab the rope just a little bit, just something, just some little something that will pull you up and keep you going, just to give you a little momentum, give you a little something. Bring that person with you. You don't have to lose everything. It's not all or nothing. I know a lot of our minds are black and white, and it's like death or life. It's like, hey, their soul could still exist, and their memory definitely exists, and they definitely still live in your heart. Bring them with you into the new. Like, connect. Say, come on, we're not staying in this depression. We're not staying in this darkness. We're going to come out into the light together in a new kind of relationship. It's not the one I prefer, but this is what we got now. And you've taught me so much through this whole process. And thank you for going before me. And thank you for being my spiritual teacher. And thank you for loving me through this. And thank you to the gifts of heaven that allow us to just remember to let go of all the bad memories, and to remember the good things about each other, and to go deeper in love together. So yeah.
That's beautiful, Angie. That's beautiful. I loved it. You know what? And maybe just by you tuning into this today, by us just talking about it today, has been that little bit of movement that you needed today. I hope so, because I know there's a few people that scrolled by and said, and asking who's talking, and I just want everyone to go to Angie Johnsey. She has been a huge help for me. I'll put it on my on the stories again, or you can go back in my stories now and you'll see Angie's Instagram. And also you have a website that is very, very helpful. And you do this every Friday.
Yes.
I can't join you every Friday. I wish I could.
There's replays.
But there's always replays. Yeah.
There's always replays. Yeah. And listen, if you've joined us, thank you for joining us. And we want to hear your stories. Like, this is your wall. This is your safe space to share with us what you've been through, what you feel, what you need. Like, please, use this opportunity to know that somebody's here with you, sitting in this very special place of grief. And I don't want it to be lost. I want it to add something to you. I want it to add something amazing to you. And that's that deeper connection with love and that deeper connection with that person who may not be in your life physically right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So go to Angie's Instagram page and
Angie.Johnsey.
Angie.
Johnsey.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in this Friday. Tune in every Friday to Angie's page. And I've had a good cry today. I'm going to have another one. But
the waves come. Let them come.
Yeah.
Feel them and then let them stop. Then go on. Then the next wave will come.
Yep.
Ride it out. Feel it. And then
I used to be so afraid to cry because I thought I'd never stop. You eventually stop. But then you cry again, and it's okay. You know, it always feels better on the other side of tears.
I talk about that in my teaching videos for the grief lesson this week. And I know we were wrapping it up, but sorry, you done stepped in something like healthy emoting, like how to have emotion in a healthy way. And that's like, especially with grief, it'll come in waves. Like you'll be busy doing something and then all of a sudden, and it's a physical, like you feel it in your chest. Sure. You feel it in your body and it's like, oh, it's not really a thought. That's why I say this isn't a mental thing. This is your spirit going through this process. And so you'll feel it and you'll cry. And if you can do it in a healthy way, you keep your mind out of it, meaning you're not thinking about.
Don't judge yourself. Don't judge.
You're not thinking at all. You're not judging yourself. You're not telling horrible stories about how I should have done something. You don't go into that. Allow the emotion to come. Feel it. Cry, kick, scream, whatever it wants to do through you. Allow it to express. Then notice as it starts to subside. And then the tears will start to slow down and you'll notice it. And if you'll keep thought out of it, it won't crank it back up again. If you keep thought out of it, now it has expressed. Now it's not being stored in you by thoughts
and stuffed.
It's not being stuffed down. It's actually being released from you. And now you're moving through grief. That is a very positive sign that you're moving through grief when you can emote in a healthy way. And so you let it out and the tears will stop. You'll feel it. Now go laugh, go play, go do something, go embrace life in whatever your capacity is at your stage. Go embrace life in some way. Go wash the dishes, go do whatever. Another wave may come like 10 minutes later, or it may not come till 3 days later. Don't judge that either. This isn't about like, oh, I should be more sad, or I should.
No, you're on nobody else's schedule but your own.
This isn't your mind's due. This is your spirit. It's up to your spirit when these waves come, how much they come, how often they come, how hard they come. Like, leave it up to your spirit to move you through grief. Leave your mind out of it as much as you can. Allow those waves to come. And if you're a male listening to this, I know our audience is mostly females, but give yourself permission to feel and to emote. It's just one of the disservices that we have done as society to not allow
men to cry.
Men, I mean, that's their right. You need to be able to. You're a human being. You need to express. You don't need to judge yourself or shove that down. Please express.
Yes.
Feel no shame around it. You need to do it, just like the earth needs to rain and it needs to have sun. Like, you need to do that to stay healthy. So if you're a man listening, please give yourself permission to, one day at a time, somebody said, give yourself permission to feel what you feel and allow those feelings to come up without putting any thought around it of judgment.
Because what happens if, it's not just a male thing, but it is, I mean, having grown up with 3 brothers and having a son, if you don't give yourself permission, that grief or that fear, that's what turns into anger. And you don't want to run around life angry all the time. You know, feel those emotions. You're allowed to cry. Just because you happen to have more testosterone doesn't mean you're not allowed to cry.
You need to cry.
You have to cry. You got to let it out. You got to let it out.
Yeah. Yes. Good talk. Good talk.
Good talk, you guys. I love you. Tune in next Friday to Angie's page. I'm going to hopefully get back in the next couple of weeks, at least 4 weeks from now, I'm hoping. If I can't come back on a Friday, Angie and I'll do a special Saturday session or whatever. But thank you so much for joining. Thanks for tuning in. Love yourself. So that's all you got, yourself. So love it.
You got this.
All right.
Make February your month to learn to love yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I signed up for my